We're joined now by Ray Lewis. Welcome back, Ray.
Welcome back.
Good to see you guys.
So, Ray, you've talked to Steve. What's going on here?
Yeah, this ain't the first time. Shannon knows this from the history of what I do in Baltimore since I was playing. Me, Steve, Ozzy, we have conversations about whoever. And the bottom line, you think about two topics here. The bottom line is, can he help us win? That's the bottom line. And so when you get away from all this other whatever everybody else wants to talk about, like I told Steve, I said, Steve, you got to act. This is what we're asking ourselves right now. How bad is Joe hurt? How soon does Joe come back? And does Colin Kaepernick help us right now? Because if he don't help us, then what we doing? That's like bringing in a third running back, but you got two running backs already there. Nah. And so I think that's where we started to really, because we both agree, and I've said this many a times, we both agree, what he did, I'm 100% for racial injustice, 100%. Trust me, right? I lived it myself, so you don't have to convince me of that part. How he did it, totally different thing. I don't totally agree with that. But you talk about bringing him in as a Baltimore Raven. The thing that we talked about the most, then I got on the phone with Ozzy, thing we talked about the most was, what does the core, what's the temperature of the core says? When these young guys, these Humphreys, these new guys that's come in there, this new core that you're trying to put together, where does that take them, right? Does this come in and be purely football? Is he purely dialed in on football? Mm-hmm. Because if he is, then we have to weigh that option. If he's not, then we have to figure something else out.
And what was your view of how much he could help them win?
And my view realistically is, how bad is Joe hurt? Because if Joe is out one more week, let's say 2 more weeks, that's preseason. That's preseason. Then really? Then why take that risk to have him come play a couple of preseason games?
Okay, what if Joe is higher risk going through the year with an iffy back that could go out at any time? Would you rather have Ryan Mallett or Colin Kaepernick as his backup?
I've never played with neither one of them. So it's, you know what I'm saying? And that's what, I think every time they come to me from a different perspective. I'm gonna come from the beat of the locker room. I'm just talking about the beat of the locker room. The beat of the locker room is, give me the best player that can help us win.
Yep.
That's the beat. And so going through the whole thing, Shay, I think one of the interesting things, because we talked for a while, one of the interesting things when you hear about you're gonna please somebody, you're not gonna please this person. Okay, that's life, right? You're gonna piss some people off and you're gonna make some people happy. Okay, whatever. Yep. But at the end of the day, what I'm asking us to do as an organization is let's make a real decision that what we're gonna do, if we're gonna do it. But if you're gonna do it, make sure we know why we're doing it, and hopefully it's to win.
Well, listening to Steve talk, if he doesn't think Colin Kaepernick can help them win, what are we discussing? Why are we even having this conversation? We should have. He said it. He's not even giving an opportunity. He says he doesn't believe that Colin Kaepernick can help them win.
He said, "I'm not sure."
So right? what are we discussing?
And he told me that, but he told me that now, and that's why I want to make sure we're clear here. Mm-hmm. Right? There's no if he did this and why he did that. Nah, because we both talked about that. That's fine with us.
So let me ask you a question. Yeah. You happen to be there. Mm-hmm. When they brought Dante Stallworth in, he was driving under the influence and killed a pedestrian. Mm-hmm. Did Steve talk to fans, sponsors, and you?
Yeah, actually.
So he talked to you on that one?
Yeah.
Okay, when Suggs had his incident with his wife, did Steve Bisciotti talk to fans, sponsors, and you?
Talk to me for sure.
Okay. So that's 3 for 3. So Dante's situation.
There's no issue since I was playing that has not been discussed with either me, Steve, me, Ozzy, me, John. Okay. It's never changed. And that's what I'm saying. I don't want to give any more merit because of his Colin Kaepernick to say, oh, why did they call, you know what I'm saying? Nah.
I'm not surprised because I know you're one of the few players that's not a quarterback that's held in regard like teams look at a John Elway or teams look at a Dan Marino. That's why you have a stadium, a statue outside the stadium. But see, when I listen to Steve talk, he says, I like how he went from sitting to kneeling, but he never mentioned why Colin Kaepernick kneeled. Now, the very thing that Colin Kaepernick was protesting is the very thing that President Trump encouraged on Friday, which was police brutality. Now, Steve Bisciotti on that team, and in 2015, you were there. You and I talked about it. Something happened to Freddie Gray. He lost his life for police brutality. I have yet to hear an owner talk about that. I have yet to hear Steve Bisciotti talk about that.
I know, but so let's be very careful with that for this simple reason. Right now, there's over 200 plus murders in Baltimore. How many people you got talking about that? Nobody. So I'm just saying, before you put somebody in a pickle to say
no, I'm not putting him in a pickle, Ray. I'm talking. Okay, let me ask you this: when Pookie shoots a Willie, they find Pookie. Where Pookie going? He going to jail. When these police shoot these unarmed black men and women, even on camera, where they going, Ray? Back on the force.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about. We're talking about the police brutality. See, what they're trying to do is that when we talk about police brutality, they talk about Chicago, they talk about Detroit, they talk about Baltimore. Okay. You want me to come up with a solution that you helped put me in.
I 100% understand what you're saying. And what I'm trying to tell you is there's no issue with what you're talking about with police brutality. We're sitting here as men.
Yeah.
So let's understand this. We're sitting here as men. And me and you, as men, ourselves, not watch nobody else deal with police brutality. I lived it.
Oh, I know.
So understand that. Just understand the dynamic of what we're talking about. I'm not talking about if this person stood out. It's not too many people. Say it for what it is. It ain't too many people gonna stand up to go into black neighborhoods and worry about black folks killing themselves. That's factual. So sooner or later, then we figure that out, then we're gonna start taking care of ourselves. So when I started to start to understand these things, Shay, what I started to understand was that ain't Steve Bisciotti's fight what happened to Freddie Gray. That ain't no owner's fight.
Yes, it is, though, Ray.
If it is,
this is America.
If it is, then all of our owners should get together and go in these urban neighborhoods and clean it up. Why wouldn't you?
Because, Ray, they don't care because it's an issue they're never going to have to face. It's people like you and I that's been there and know people that's faced these issues. You talking about Steve Bisciotti is never going to have to worry about the police beating him or a family member down. Jerry Jones, Mr. Kraft, they never going to have to worry about that.
That's what I just said.
So why should they care? They should care because it's the United States of America. You care about what's going on in Ukraine. You care about what's going on in Venezuela.
How many times before any of these things came up, before you was playing, after you playing, how many times it happened?
But they pretended like
No, just ask how many times did it happen?
It was going on a lot, but the advent of social media.
Shay, I know, but we keep.
I don't want to go back and forth.
Yeah,
you go ahead. Go ahead.
Time out. So let's go back to, can he help the Baltimore Ravens win?
It's
Let's
as
forget
simple as
about
that.
all the
As simple,
clippers.
simple as that.
And what I saw from that video of Steve Bisciotti talking to a fan forum at your stadium with the commissioner up on stage, sitting on a stool right down from him, listening to all this, I saw a show that I did not like, that left a bad taste in my mouth because it came across like it was all for show, that he merely wanted to deliver a message to his sponsors and his fans and ultimately to us here that, well, we're thinking about it. We're scrimmaging this. That's the term he used, that Ozzie and him are going back and forth about it. We're thinking hard about this. And I didn't like it, but then I like this. And then he makes a joke about being Catholic. We kneel as Catholics. And it came across to me as more lip service to the point that he even volunteered. We're also going to bring in Robert Griffin III for a workout. You are? Why? Because if we're talking about who can help you win the most, and I'm the biggest RG3 fan on the planet, or at least used to be, Colin Kaepernick was miles ahead in performance last year of Robert Griffin III, who was a shell of himself in the 5 games he played for the Cleveland Browns. Kaepernick was pretty good last year, 16 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. Yes. And his QBR, my favorite stat, was significantly better than Robert's, because I'm not sure Robert, he's just barely hanging on to any job that he could get in this league. But clearly, Colin Kaepernick, on his resume, on what he did in his first 2 years of starting with Jim Harbaugh, who then got pushed out the back door, and sort of left Colin just twisting in the wind in San Francisco with a bad football team. Clearly, he's a much better bet right now than RG3. But it comes across like, for show, that Steve Bisciotti has given us, well, we're going to bring in another African-American quarterback with sort of the same skill set as Colin. So is that okay with everybody? Because we're going to give him a tryout. And it's like you're trying to convince everybody that we tried, but we couldn't get there. And it's the same thing Pete Carroll did in Seattle. They made that so public. We're trying. We brought him in. They didn't work him out, but they talked and talked. Where are your priorities? What's important to you right now? That's what Pete Carroll said. And his locker room, boy, that Seattle locker room, they were on fire for Colin Kaepernick. That's the best fit in the world for Colin right now is the Seattle locker room. Although I could make a case that the second best bet for Colin right now would be your locker room with the Ravens, right?
Yes.
Just because of Ozzie and the sort of the senior leadership
what
and
you left in the locker room and the demographics
the dynamic
of Baltimore
that you built and left, the legacy of Ray Lewis in that locker room. So that's the second best. But all I heard from the owner was lip service. I think he was trying to tell everybody, we tried to get there, we thought hard about it, but we can't get there. So we're going to bring in Robert Griffin III. Baloney. I'm sorry, I'm calling lip service on you. I'm calling it's all for show.